So it's been a while since my last video review. What game we got to do today? Oh, fuck donkeys. Yes, indeed. Today we're talking about the Bureau, Xcom Declassified. I'm gonna be blunt. I could end this review like this. It fucking sucks. The end. But no, I'm not gonna do that to you. We're gonna explain why it sucks. Let's get things started with the gameplay. The gameplay for this game is a mishmash of XCOM Enemy Unknown, Mass Effect 2, and Kane Lynch. And it sounds as bad as it is. Now, this game started off as a first-person shooter, and thankfully it changed to being a third-person shooter. It made it a little bit more palatable, but it's kind of like puking on a pile of shit. They didn't know what they were doing, obviously, when they were making this game. Because they keep saying when the game came out, their press releases, that, oh, it's just like Mass Effect 2. It is not like at all. Now, the shooting mechanic is fine. It's serviceable, I suppose. The cover mechanic is kind of a joke, because you just run into it. But unlike Tomb Raider, it's not very intuitive. Sometimes you'll just be standing by the wall trying to get into cover, and you won't. That can be really, really frustrating. On top of that, giving orders to your squad. In XCOM, while you're having a turn, you can sit there and plan out, okay, what do I want you to do? And you have all the time in the world until you hit end turn. In this game, when you hit your button that brings up what your commands are to your other two squad mates, time is still going, it's just slowed down. So if someone's getting shot, they're still getting shot, just slower. Now they did this in order to kind of speed up the combat, but much like Dragon Age 2, it doesn't work. Okay, speeding up combat doesn't make it better, it just makes it faster and more intense. I think George Lucas taught us that doesn't always work. And frankly, all the weapons feel the same, at least they did to me. I didn't get a weapon that had like a super powered punch to it or anything. And frankly, I think if it had not been for the name XCOM on this game, it probably would not have ended up seeing release. Overall, I give the gameplay a 5 out of 10. It is serviceable at best. Next, we'll talk about the graphics. Now, graphically, this is a little bit above XCOM Enemy Unknown, as in some moments, and in other moments, it's falling very far behind. There's a lot of pixelation, there's a lot of blocky graphics. In fact, the hand modeling on some of the characters is the worst I've ever seen. Now, I know graphics aren't everything, admittedly, but this game, just goes out of its way to look lazy. When you finally get your laser weapons, it looks like you're shooting blots of Kool-Aid at the enemy. It just doesn't look good at all. Now, the cutscenes look fine, but I get the feeling that they're pre-rendered. You can't really tell, because they look like they may be using the same engine, but they could be pre-rendered because there's a lot better looking than the gameplay itself. But as I've always said, graphics aren't everything. Overall, I give the graphics for this game a 5 out of 10. They are average at best. Next, we'll take a look at the soundtrack. Now, I was expecting a lot here, because soundtrack can really make or break a game. Now, with that said, soundtrack for this game is average at best. Sound effects are good. The guns sound like guns, footsteps sound like that kind of thing. But that's basic bare bones at this point in the game. I'm not going to start giving high marks because you got the basics right. The music in the game is an absolute joke. It's like they've hired like a kid on Fruity Loops for the PC and just said, hey, make a track real quick. There's no real pulse-pounding action that makes you come back to it like games like, say, XCOM Enemy Unknown, Mass Effect, Gears of War. These games had soundtracks that made you like the game, even if you didn't like the gameplay at a certain moment. You liked the track. This game does not have that. Overall sound for this game gets a 5 out of 10. Are you noticing a pattern yet? Next up, we'll look at the story. Now, this is what just slaps any XCOM fan in the face. You start off with a guy, he has a name, but fuck it, you're not going to remember it. He's being told about a mission he needs to get to, and boom, aliens attack. The rest of the game is basically you leading this division, Xcom, created by President Kennedy. Now that was kind of clever, I'll admit, bringing in some political intrigue. They don't really do anything with it. Now there are 4 different endings to this story, and no, I'm not going to spoil it here if you do decide to go play this monster. But it's basically, if you've ever played XCOM, it's that story distilled down into its barest form. Aliens attack, stop them, the end. That's it. There are subtle nuances with your character, but you won't care, and that's the biggest flaw about this game. You don't care about anyone in it. You don't care about your main character, you don't care about your soldiers, no one. There's no emotional connection to this title. And that means a lot when you're going into a story. So overall, I have to give the story for this game a 4 out of 10. It is below average. Finally, let's take a look at customer care. Now, I want to give the developer credit for one thing. They brought this out as a first-person shooter, and people hated it. Most famously, the Spoony one, who I focused on a few weeks ago.
Betrayal!
What?
Betrayal! Betrayed me! This game sucks!
His cry of betrayal was not alone, and so they changed it to a third-person action game, getting rid of some of the first-person-y style gameplay. That helped. But XCOM was never meant to be an action game. It is turn-based strategy. That's what it's meant to be. That's what it works well as. This game could have just basically been Shoot the Aliens as the title. It would have worked. Now, these kind of games, when you slap a franchise on there that has nothing to do with action, it smacks of trying to go after the quote-unquote Call of Duty demo. Nothing wrong with that. That demo makes a lot of money for people. But when you do that, you hurt the fans of the franchise who look at this as a sellout. And that's what this is. It's using the XCOM name to try to bring in some of the action fans to the XCOM. It didn't work. It won't work. The game is frankly terrible. I don't think they knew that, I'll admit. But just the fact they tried to make XCOM an action game pisses me off. And so overall, I gave customer care for this title a 6 out of 10. It's above average, but not by much. I do feel like they wanted to make a good game. But by switching their roles so quick at 2010 and now releasing in 2013, they needed more development time to make this work. Overall, this game earns a 25 out of 50. It is as average as it gets. I would highly advise, if you're a fan of XCOM, skip it. If you're a fan of third-person games, skip it. There are far better out there. Admittedly, there are worse. There are far better games out there you can play in this genre. Until next time, my name is Vega Goose saying, we're all stories in the air. Make yours a good one, and I'll see you next time.